And you are listening to Good Morning Blues on 89.3 FM WRFG. Also streamed at WRFG.org. I'm Mike Rose. Good Morning Blues is heard every weekday morning from 6 to 10. We have CDs from Roger Hurricane Wilson, and we're going to hear from Roger Hurricane Wilson in just a few minutes here on WRFG of listener-sponsored community radio. This is 89.3 FM WRFG Atlanta, your home for progressive information and hand-picked quality music. We're going to listen now to something from the new album from Roger Hurricane Wilson, and we'll hear from the man himself in just a moment here on WRFG. You're listening to Good Morning Blues, 89.3 FM.
Well, if you won't help me, I gotta find gotta help me. Can't do it by myself. Well, if you won't help me, gotta find somebody else. Fetch me my night shirt, babe. Put on your morning gown. Fetch me my night shirt, babe. Put on your morning gown. Well, I know you ain't sleeping. I sure me feel like lying down. Fetch me my night shirt, babe. Put on your morning gown. Fetch me my night shirt, babe. Put on your morning gown. Well, I know you ain't sleeping, but I sure feel like lying down.
Right now, I'm talking to Roger Hurricane Wilson, who I have personally have known for, gosh, over 40 years now. Hard to believe that, we're both old enough to know each other for that long. Roger, it's good to have you with us this morning on Good Morning Blues on 89.3 FM WRFG. We're gonna obviously talk about your musical career and all the other things that you've done, a lot more than music. We're going to talk about your musical career, talk a little bit about how we've known each other over the years. But a question I don't think I know the answer to this, so I'm going to start with, obviously you go by Roger Hurricane Wilson. Where did the name Hurricane come from?
Well, that came back around 1992 or so on my first CD, Hurricane Blues, was being produced by our good friend Alec Janulis, or otherwise known as Big Al Jano. He owned Hot Tracks Record in Atlanta and had done recordings back from the late 50s and 60s and just had been around, was around a long time. He's still around and we kind of keep in touch a little bit, but I was playing so many local joints forever. I mean, it was one of those things where I was playing 5 or 6 nights a week around the Atlanta area, and when you do that, nobody really cares about you anymore. I mean, they can see you anytime. They go, hey, I can see him here. I can see him there,
Yeah.
And so that's the way it was. And I had done that for so many years. And Alec, having the record company he had, and us being friends, he says, man, you need to, we need to get you on the road. We need to get you a CD. We need to get you, out, try beyond, the perimeter and the Southeast. And so that's the way it worked out. And we kind of started working on a CD, but the way the name came about was Alec and I and Butch Cooper, we were on the road and we were heading to Washington, D.C. to do some dates. This is back in summer of 92 or so. And we were already working on the Hurricane Blues CD. We had a few basic tracks, but they weren't quite complete, but we were working on them. And so we're driving along on a Sunday afternoon. I'm driving a pickup truck, pulling a trailer with our equipment, and they're driving in another vehicle. And we listened to this radio station up in North Carolina. And it was a great station. It was, I think it was out of just above Raleigh, between Raleigh and Durham somewhere. And I think it was around Statesville, North Carolina, something. It was a great radio show. And the guy was playing some great music, some shag music and blues and old stuff, and listened to it. And we called him up and told him we were coming through. He says, yeah, man, we love the radio show. He says, yeah, well, come on by and go on the air. So we did that. And here it is, a Sunday afternoon. And we only had some half completed tracks, but he played them on the radio. And we're sitting in the station, we're having a blast, just for about 30 minutes or so on the air. At the end of the session, the guy had my name. First of all, it was I was going by Roger Wilson and the Low Overhead Band, because it was a little 3-piece band that I put together. And so it was just Roger Wilson and that. There was no Hurricane yet. But anyway, at the end of that session, the guy had my name, Roger Wilson, plastered on his thing in front of him by the microphone. And at the end of the session, he says, "Yeah, we've been here with the last 30 minutes with Roger Miller." No. And I didn't say anything. I'm going, "Yeah, okay, whatever. I've been called worse, So anyway, he didn't bat an eye, and he just folded up the stuff and said, "Yeah, thanks for coming, thanks for being here." I was just chalking it up to whatever. So we're walking outside, and I look over to Alec, and he's fuming. He is absolutely fuming. He looked like the movie Clockwork Orange, where the guy was like getting ready to blow a gasket, way back in the day, for those that remember that. I said, "Man, what's wrong with you?" He says, "Man," he says, "you need a moniker. You need something that's going to separate you from the rest." And I'm going, "Yeah, okay, whatever." So I never worried about it. My name is what it is, and I was doing what I was doing. So we get back in the vehicles, and we get into Washington, D.C. that night. Alec comes into my hotel room, and he says, "I got it." I said, "Yeah, okay, what is it?" He says, "From now on, you Roger Hurricane Wilson."
Wow. Okay.
I said, "Okay, elaborate." He says, "Man," he says, "I've been watching you for years and years, going in from one joint to the next and making a mess and getting out quick. And by this time, I was working at CNN full time, but I was still playing full time. I was leaving there and going out on the road and doing gigs and coming back. So it was basically like they would say I was running in like a hurricane and making a mess and leaving quick." So anyway, the next night I went into Washington, D.C. and played this joint, and that's how the name just stuck, and they started calling me that. But the other thing was, when I was 7 years old, I was a child in New Jersey. My mom was from Atlanta, but she moved to Jersey, and I was born there. And we experienced Hurricane Donna back in 1960. And I was 7 years old, and we had like a foot of water in the house, and the whole thing. It was the same area that Hurricane Sandy wiped out, except back in 1960, they didn't have the technology that they had when Hurricane Sandy came, because Hurricane Sandy was a lot worse than Hurricane Donna, but Hurricane Donna was pretty bad. And I was 7 years old, and I was pretty well traumatized by it. The town was never the same since that I lived in, the little town. So anyway, all these little stories kind of, and he knew all that. And he says, "You've got something to run on here." I'm going to say, "Yeah, okay." But then all of a sudden they were all calling, it was Hurricane, and that's just the way it kind of evolved. And that's really the full story. I wrote about it in a book that I wrote about 10 years ago, but
Okay.
that's how the story evolved.
Well, that's quite a story. So I guess I knew you before you were Roger Hurricane Wilson, when you were just Roger Wilson, when I first met you like 40 years ago. So,
well, you and I were working and I was in radio for a long time, and I was working at WGST radio as you were. And
yes, I was.
But I was also operating the Roger Wilson Guitar Studio. I came on basically on a scene as in 19 years old, teaching guitar lessons, and that's how I made my living. That's how I've been building my chops for many years. 50 years later, I'm still teaching some.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But the studio was right around the corner from WGST, and I was back and forth there. And you and I were working the board and doing remotes, and we were doing all the grunt work, right?
Yeah, I remember you well. You helped train me in broadcasting when I first started over 40 years ago.
Well, yeah, I remember there were some night my first son had just been born, and there was some days where I was wanting to get out of there and kind of get home to him. And of course he'll be 40 coming up now in a few months, but yeah, I mean that was we were all growing, and my family was growing, and career and everything. But you were there, and I remember you training, and I remember I think we kind of subbed for each other on the board here and there, and so it worked out great, man. It was really nice.
You're listening to Good Morning Blues on 89.3 FM WRFG. I'm talking with Roger Hurricane Wilson. I want to get into how you started your interest in the blues. We'll do that in a second, but do you have a song you would like to play for us this morning?
Yeah, sure. We got I got something right here. I got an old Hank Williams tune. Now,
okay.
Hank's not really known for the masses as being a blues musician. However, Hank Williams learned how to play blues on his guitar from a bluesman named T-Tot down in Montgomery, Alabama. And of course, Hank's songwriting took him over the top. But I had the pleasure of playing the Hank Williams Museum 100th birthday celebration this past September. And I played it in the theater with a really great house band. And so this is one of the songs that Hank Williams wrote. It's called The Blues Come Around, and I'll play that one if you want me to.
Oh, absolutely. Sounds great.
Once I was happy as I could be, but I let a gal make a fool of me. And ever since she let me down, the blues come around when the sun goes down. Oh, the blues come around. Oh, the blues come around. Oh, the blues come around. Every evening when the sun goes down. This doggone blues never made me cry. But ever since she left this town, the blues come around when the sun goes down. Oh, the blues come around. Oh, the blues come around. Oh, the blues come around. Every evening when the sun goes down. Built my castles very high, and then she went and said goodbye. And ever since she tore them down, the blues come around when the sun goes down. Oh, the blues come around. Oh, the blues come around. Oh, the blues come around. Every evening when the sun goes down. Once she called me on her own, but now she's gone and I'm alone. And every evening I'm sorrow bound. The blues come around when the sun goes down. Oh, the blues come around. Oh, the blues come around. Oh, the blues come around. Every evening when the sun goes down. Oh, the blues come around. Oh, the blues come around. Oh, the blues come around every evening when the sun goes down.
Good morning. It's 9:18, and this is Good Morning Blues on 89.3 FM WRFG. Also streamed on WRFG.org. I'm Mike Rose, and we've been featuring an interview with Roger Hurricane Wilson during this segment of Good Morning Blues and our WRFG Spring Fun Drive. The Roger Wilson Trio has a new album out, and we've been featuring some songs from that album this morning, as well as an interview of Roger. And the album is Roger Hurricane Wilson Trio, live from Maxwell's in Woodstock, Georgia. Earlier today, we heard him doing a Sonny Boy Williamson song called Help Me. And right now, we're going to hear Little by Little on Good Morning Blues, 89.3 FM WRFG.
K. Wilson here on 89.3 FM WRFG. Good morning, blues. I'm Mike Rose with you this morning. I know that blues is not the only kind of music you're interested in. You play a lot of different kinds of things, but you've had a special focus on blues over the years. Tell us a bit of how you got into blues.
Basically, coming along as a kid in the 60s, listening to the radio, I mean, a lot of what we heard was from the British blues to Chuck Berry to, just old rock and roll was basically an evolution of the blues. And so I remember groups like Paul Revere and the Raiders, the Animals, these different groups that were out that had hit songs, and they were playing blues. I mean, then it evolved into Cream, and Eric Clapton in the early days and all that. And of course, the Rolling Stones, we listened to the Rolling Stones and they were writing their own hits, but they were also started off playing blues first and basically listened to it in England and basically brought it to the United States. And so I guess my thing was, I can't call myself a blues man. I mean, B.B. King was a blues man, but I'm just very much influenced by it. And my playing was always influenced by it. And it just, it kind of stuck in, but then I had an interest in it. And finding out about it. And I remember back when I got out of high school, I remember I was going to high school in Woodward Academy here in Georgia, and I was I'd been playing guitar since I was 9 years old, and I was going through the motions and all that. And so basically, I went to an Allman Brothers Band concert. A lot of folks that are listening probably were at this show back in 1971 at the Municipal Auditorium, and I stood a little too close to Duane Allman and never seen anybody play guitar like that. And I was pretty much ruined for life. So then I started researching him, and he was talking about, after he passed away, the Duane Allman Anthology came out with a great big, large publication in it, history of him. And he was mentioning people like, before I knew who anybody was, he was mentioning people about Robert Johnson and Elmore James and T-Bone Walker and Blind Willie McTell. And the Allman Brothers Band had been playing these great songs, Statesboro Blues and all that. We were rocking out to it and going, oh man, that's cool. It sounded great. But the roots of it were way beyond. So when I started researching that, I was back in Jersey after graduating in 72. And I thought, somehow I went to a record store and I bought an anthology of Robert Johnson, Elmore James, and Blind Willie McTell, and T-Bone Walker. And I had these 4 albums under my arm at 19 years old. And I'm walking around, and the recordings were kind of tough to listen to at the time because I really didn't have the ear to pick up on it. I do so more so now. But I listened to it. And I couldn't really, like when I listened to a Robert Johnson song, I was going, oh man, I couldn't really play it at first. But then I thought, well, I know what's in here, and I kept fighting with it. And then it just, it evolved, and I kept reading up more, and it just kind of became, I don't want to say an obsession, but it became, it became important of something to research and keep alive.
That's awesome. Do you have something you want to play for us? Maybe an old blues song? What are you thinking?
Yeah, let's see here. I've got I'm kind of thumbing back here. This is an old I'm going through my iPad as we speak. Yeah, here's an old Muddy Waters tune. This is one that I had the pleasure of going out on the road a while back in 2010 or so with the legendary Willie Big Eye Smith. Willie was Muddy Waters' drummer from 1960 to 1980, but he was a very accomplished harmonica player. And he and I went out and did some tours together. And so he and I recorded this song here. We did a live CD called Live Blues, Protected by Smith and Wilson. Unfortunately, Willie passed away after we released the CD in 2011. He passed away late 2011. But the CD is called Live Blues, Protected by Smith and Wilson. It's out and around. And this song here was one that Muddy Waters had recorded after he left the Delta in 1943. And somewhere along the line at Chess Records, he recorded Can't Be Satisfied.
And I just can't be satisfied. woman I'm trouble. Y'all was mine. And I just can't be satisfied. Just can't keep from crying. Can't see the doggone thing, woman, I'm trouble. They all was mine. And I just can't be satisfied. Just can't keep on crying. Well, I know my little baby gonna jump and shout. This old train's late, man. Well, I come walking out, woman, I'm trouble. I'll be all was mine. And I just can't be satisfied. Just can't keep from crying. And I just can't be satisfied. Just can't keep from crying. And I just can't be satisfied. Just can't keep from crying.
And this is Good Morning Blues on 89.3 FM WRFG, also streamed at WRFG.org. I'm Mike Rose with you this morning. Good Morning Blues is heard every weekday morning from 6 to 10. I'm with you every Monday morning for Good Morning Blues Part 2 from 8 to 10. We're going to go back to our interview with Roger Hurricane Wilson in just a second, and he also has a new album out that we've been playing some this morning. Roger Hurricane Wilson Trio is the name of the band, and the album is Live from Maxwell's from Woodstock, Georgia, and we're going to hear another song from that album and get back to the interview with Roger in just a second. This is one called Rumble on Good Morning Blues, 89.3 FM.
Roger Hurricane Wilson with us this morning on 89.3 FM WRFG. This is Good Morning Blues. I'm Mike Rose. And, Roger, we were talking moments ago about country and blues, and obviously you play country and you play rock and roll, you play a lot of things. Can you talk a little bit about how all this music sort of comes together? I know we like to put everything in a category, but really when you look at music, everything is sort of interconnected, especially when it comes to blues, because wouldn't you agree the blues is pretty much part of almost every form of music that we hear and see?
Well, I've always believed and heard and been taught and researched that the Delta blues out of the Delta is the basis for all American music. And I mean, in rock and roll, country, a lot of it. And then, of course, it was very, very basic. And then jazz evolved from it. And but then there's also music, like a lot of folks will say to it. I mean, a lot of it evolved from the church, which it did, gospel music and all that. So a lot of it was on both sides, but it was basically out of the South. And to me, there was something in the water down in the Delta or whatever it was that came around. And then a lot of the melodies and a lot of the stuff we hear were also parts of field hollers and melodies that were brought over on the slave ships. So I mean, there's a lot of big history that goes way back. And once you start digging into each little branch of it, it's really easy to get lost. But there's a whole history of it. And I've taught a program called Blues in the Schools. I've done it around the country in different places. Not so much in the last few years, but teaching young kids about the origins of American music, which is the blues. And so we can go into any kind of aspect of it and really get lost. You can take it down the Mississippi River. You can take it, which I guess is early on from the commerce coming on the Mississippi River. People would come in, with different influences of their own. They would be playing banjos and mandolins and everything, and they'd come in and they'd hear something down that part of the country and then go away with it, which might have caused bluegrass to evolve, and mountain music and that kind of thing. And I don't really have one explanation for all of it, but it's just a big mixture of what we hear and what's evolved, from the blues early on.
Obviously, it's affected your music. I mean, I know you do originals as well as cover songs as well. I know must be a special thrill in doing an original song and getting appreciation for it. But do you enjoy that more than doing the cover songs that you do, or are you kind of like doing a mix of all the music that you do?
Well, I love writing. I mean, a lot of the most recent CD I did, now I got one coming out now with my new band, the Roger Hurricane Wilson Trio, which has only been together since August. It's got Sandra Sen on drums and Paul Arredondo on bass guitar, and we got together this past year and started putting together some blues tunes and also originals, and that's worked. And so the CD we've got coming out now that's just being released, called Live at Maxwell's, is a mixture of about, I think, 5 originals and 7 covers. But then the previous CD that I just did that came out in the fall was called Somebody Had to Say It, and there was all originals on there. And there was some stuff that it was there were some blues tunes on it and some stuff that I wrote about, just stuff that I felt. And if some of it turned out kind of rock like, and some of it might be it was one I wrote a song about my mom, and then I wrote another song about my dad. So there's sentimental ballad kind of things. So a song is a song. I mean, if I write something, I'm not necessarily having to try to write blues. I'm write something, and a lot of times it'll sound like blues, right. And then a lot of times it might not. As far as the blues purists go, they say, well, he's not blues, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm half blues. I don't know. It's just it comes out the way
there's at least the blues
comes out
there for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So tell me, I want to obviously know what you have coming up and everything, and hear more about. I know that you're always performing around town. Are you mostly focused in Atlanta area, or you still do some traveling around the country these days?
Well, I haven't traveled in a few years. I guess up until around, of course, COVID kind of changed everything. And I was doing some tours around Florida. I was touring pretty much, a lot up until that time. And I kind of took a little bit of a break here. So, that's kind of. But right now we've been performing at Mad Life, and I guess let's see, where the other one was Maxwell Cigar Bar, which is where we recorded this live CD. Mad Life has been a great venue. We just did another big video there, so that's coming out. And then just we're going to be doing a thing up in Greenville, South Carolina. We're going to kind of evolve, I guess, make our way out on the road a little bit at a time. But right now we're kind of focused on just staying around here and making some recordings. But I'm getting a lot of radio airplay, and that's another story in itself, which is really great.
Would you like to do an original song for us today before we have to cut things off, or do you have something in mind?
I think what I'll do here, this is a song that I wrote about being in the broadcast business.
All right.
And I remember writing this. It's got to do with radio, and mostly network TV news. After we worked together in radio way back, I ended up working at CNN for 10 years and did a lot of stuff there, even though I was still playing, which I would consider full time while working there. This is called Talking Heads. And we just have a couple live versions of this coming out on the new CD, and also the video that just we recorded at Mad Life, which is already up on YouTube. YouTube channel is Roger Wilson Guitar for anybody that wants to check it out. But this is called Talking Heads.
There's a mannequin reporting from the White House lawn. There's another one talking out in front of the Pentagon. Then they cut to chase a politician up Capitol Hill and stick a microphone in his face, say what he will. Those talking heads would have it be said. Another strange face, just talking in place. Then they cut to the blonde covering the political race. She's got the congressman on camera trying to save his face. Is what he's saying really true, or is it a lie? We'll never know, 'cause we're all laughing at his ugly tie. Those talking heads would have it be said. Another strange face, just talking in place. They said that they haven't said before. Has a wolf and Sam and Tom and Dan and Peter heard it all before? But now they have to give the analyst an expert a call. Then they take a breath, face the camera, then they talk some more. Those talking heads would have to be said. Face, just talking in place. Many words are spoken, but nothing said. All that matters to the suits is which network's ahead. Whatever makes them tune in, go ahead and give them some more. Anything that works, from OJ to the gold foil. Talking heads haven't been said. Another strange face, just talking in place. Those talking heads would haven't been said. Another strange face, just talking in place.
Roger Hurricane Wilson on Good Morning Blues, 89.3 FM WRFG, also streamed on WRFG.org.
Roger Wilson, y'all make him welcome.
This song here, this is a song that I love doing that you don't hear at home a lot like that, but have a lot of fun. It's called The Blues Come Around. friend of mine, and he wrote this song here called The Ride. How about a big hand together with him, huh? Well, I was stuck in front of me. I had my guitar on my back. When a stranger stopped beside me in an empty Cadillac. He was dressed like 1950, half drunk and hollow-eyed. He said, "So I walked to Nashville. Would you like a ride, son?" Sat down in the front seat. He turned on the radio. Them sad old songs coming out of them speakers was solid country gold. And I noticed the strain, his coat light fell when he asked me for a light. And I knew there was something strange about this ride. He said, "Mr. Can you folks cry when you play and sing? And you paid your dues, can you mourn the blues, can you guitar strings?" He said, "Boy, can you folks feel what you feel inside? If the bass start around, but you want it for a ride. If your bass start around, but you want it for a ride." And he crashed himself in Nashville. And he turned the car around. He said, "This is where you get off, boy, because I'm going back out there." And as I stepped out of the Cadillac, I said, "Mister, many thanks." He said, "You don't have to call me Mister, Mister. The whole world called me Annie." He said, "Can you make folks cry when you play and sing? And you pay your dues, and you mourn the blues, and you play the guitar strings." He said, "Boy, can you make folks feel what you feel inside? If your big star around when you want it for a ride.
Thank y'all so much. How about we keep doing All Stars? How about people give it up